All right, that was smooth. Good morning, everybody. It's super nice to see you here. Thanks to everyone who was in the the waiting room gang, and everyone from our Just Create More community, and everybody who's here. It's super nice to see everybody here. I hope it's an interesting stream today. I sure do hope so. I did see Manuel Frank, will this stream be available for re-watch? I can read. Yes, it will. I'm going to leave this up because the goal is I really want to go through the whole thumbnail process with everybody today. And my video today was all about live streaming mistakes, common live streaming mistakes. And one of the big ones was streaming without a purpose. And there's nothing at all wrong. I love doing the let's hang out and do questions and answer streams and stuff. Those are super fun. But I wanted to try to let's have a real purpose and let's accomplish something during the stream today. Plus I legit need to make a thumbnail for this video. So that's what we're gonna do today. So it's gonna be a little more focused. If you have thumbnail specific questions, I saw some people just put a Q colon in front of it and I'll do my best to get to those. And I probably will be relying on community input for some of these things because I have questions and things. So anyway, it's really nice to see everybody here. I appreciate it. I've set aside 2 hours for this stream. I don't know that it will take 2 hours. And I know some of you are like, I don't have 2 hours to spend. Totally fine. I've set aside 2 hours because it normally does take me an hour or a little more to do a thumbnail when I'm just doing it by myself. So I kind of figured the live stream might add to that process, but we'll see. Maybe it'll actually speed things up. We'll be done in like 45 minutes. Oh, and thank you, Lewis. I like the shallow depth of field. All right, so I am going to start off by just sort of giving you a quick overview of what we're doing. There's a couple links in the description to this stream. And you can check those out as you want. Earlier this week, I can't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday because time is irrelevant now, but I did a live stream. It was an unlisted one where I streamed the process of me recording a video. And it was super fun. Like I went through the whole thing of filming the A-roll, filming the B-roll. We took thumbnail photos and I had people in the chat, like some people who are here right now, like Matt was helping me do composition stuff and figure out lighting and take a thumbnail photo. And I've edited that video together and it came out, I like it a lot. But now I need to make the thumbnail for that video. So the unlisted stream, I feel like somebody, oh, I got my little background music. I got distracted. Sorry. The live stream, the reason that was unlisted was because I didn't know if it would work. I didn't know if streaming me making a video was something that was possible, and it turns out it was. So I wanted to do this one then publicly because I feel a little more confident in this. And the link is in the description to that. So even though it's unlisted, it's there and you can totally watch it. There's also a link in the description to a page on my wonderful, wonderful website. I think I can push a button. Yeah, okay. Messy desktop, but it's okay. But if you link to my website, which is just click on download, there's a thumbnail template. And this is actually the Photoshop file I'm working with today. I do everything in Photoshop for thumbnails just because I've been using Photoshop since I'm used to it. But a lot of what I'm doing would also apply to like Canva or Affinity or whatever application you like. I do those but if you want to download a thumbnail template, you can either click this image or the little PSD file link, and it'll just download for free. You don't need to pay or email or anything. It's a link to a Google Drive file. That'll be there for you if you want that. And that's actually the file that I'm going to be working with today. So, I'm trying to... Oh, music's playing too loud. Thank you, guys. There we go. I don't know what's going on. We'll just keep that very, very low. Like as low as possible. There. So you should be able to hear me louder than that, at least according to my stuff here. I did talk about audio in my live streaming tips, but since a lot of today is going to be me quietly staring at the... oh, unless it's YouTube doing something. No, I'm going to get rid of that. A lot of today is going to be me staring at the screen, and I didn't want that to just be you looking at me quietly.
I think you have an epidemic playing in the back.
I do. There's a delay. I have background music, but yeah.
Switch to the screen share. It's like 200% less.
Oh. That makes a lot of sense. Ecamm, you did me dirty, Ecamm. So here we go. I have Ecamm people watching. This is relevant. Stop, Ecamm, changing audio settings when people make new scenes. Keep my same audio settings. So the problem was when I went to the screen share, I'll fix it in a second. Maybe. Except that it now changed my profile, so that's fun. Where are we? There we go. Boom. There we go. Sorry. This was my problem, was that Ecamm, this little audio box right here, when you create a new scene, it just decides to do whatever it thinks is best for your audio instead of just taking the audio from a previous scene. And that's why you couldn't hear me. I apologize. But I wanted to have background music today, so I thought everyone was like, oh my God, your background music is crazy. But yeah, it was just playing only the background music. So what I had said was, I apologize for that. What I had said was, if you go to my website and you go to the downloads page, hi, my name is tom.com, click on downloads. There's a link in the description. You can download the Photoshop file that I'll be working with today, and it'll be good. So that should be cool there. All the other audio should be fine throughout the day. So let's jump into it, really. Here's kind of the thumbnail process, and I'm going to look up some Cullings. So I'm not going to be in the main chat for the time being, but I know I have my amazing moderator team popping up, which is awesome. So I trust you guys. Lewis is asking, how long does it take you to make a thumbnail? So typically about an hour, maybe a little more than an hour. It depends. I've been trying to put a lot of effort into thumbnails, and I have a couple videos about how I make my thumbnails, but I've also recently sort of changed my philosophy a little bit, and that's kind of something I wanted to share with you guys today. And how do I organize them? I just have a running Photoshop document. It is the same document that's on my website, so you can do that there, and I'll show you it in a second when we go into that stuff. And I see Fonto. I don't know what Fonto is. I use Photoshop. Anyway, so we have photos. I've taken photos. As I do videos, I always try to take an actual, like, put the camera in photo mode and take a photo. And we did that the other day during the live stream. And I have those photos here. Let me just try to clean things up for everybody before I bring that up. So let me see if I show my screen again, and I hope you can hear me. Yes, you can. We don't need Photoshop. We need this. So this is the folder that has all of the shots that I took for the video yesterday. So here's, like, you know, I did the A-roll, the talking head part of the video, took all these B-roll shots, and then down here are some raw files that I took with the Sony a7S III. It does work great for photos if you're not going to be doing anything too crazy. If I ever want to take a photo that I know I'm going to manipulate heavily, crop in a lot, composite a lot, do something crazy, I'll always make sure to use the EOS R for that, because the R has more megapixels. It's what, 30 megapixels versus 12. So if you're gonna be doing a lot of crazy photo editing, I use those cameras for thumbnails. But for the most part, the a7S III is good, even though it's only 12 megapixels. So we have these photos here. They're all kind of similar. And the video that I'm working on is a video about something called an uninterruptible power supply. And the video itself came out great. Like, I really like the video and I'm super happy with it. But the idea of making a video about something like a power supply could potentially be a little bit boring, because who cares? Sorry, I'm scrolling through all the comments down here. So the challenge was making this interesting. And if people are looking for uninterruptible power supplies, they would find the video if I just titled it like, why you need a UPS. But if it popped up in your feed and it was like, wow, a whole video about a power supply, who cares? So the thumbnail and the title need to work together to draw people in and go like, oh, I don't even know what this is. Maybe it's something I should be interested in. Because that's what happened to me. This was something I wasn't using until like a month ago. And it turns out if you have a lot of computer setup, you do a lot of streaming, a lot of that kind of stuff, having an uninterruptible power supply is very important. I know there's a lot of people in the chat here who use them, including Peter Gregg, who's one of the first people that told me about them. So, yeah, very important. Problem though, the thing itself is very boring looking. It just looks like a cheap computer. So it's just a black box. What we decided during the stream was to do it in front of the blue backdrop that I have. And so we played with some lighting. The blue backdrop is good because it isolates the subject, like the thing. And then I was playing around with framing a little bit. Not too worried about, I can always crop stuff in Photoshop and whatnot. But trying to figure out, like, let's have some blue space here because I wanted to have text on screen. I think a mistake that I've been making in my thumbnails is putting too much text on screen. And I want to put just a little bit, where like a big bold word or two that are like, whoa, why do I need to watch this? So I'll need help figuring out what those should be. So here's some of the images. This one was taken specifically with the idea that text would go in the middle here. And then what I really like was Matt, I don't know if he's still here in the chat, but he suggested replacing the tube light with one of the Aperture B7Cs, which just looks like a different, like a regular light bulb. And I really like that. I don't know why I like this better than this, but I do. So I took a few photos like that. This is a good one. So typically what I'll do is when I find the ones I like, I'll label them green as like, hey, good to go. So I like that one, but I'm open to suggestions here. I don't know if there's even a difference between these two. Just the framing, but that won't matter. So I can actually, I like to delete ones when I know I'm not going to use them. Oh, that's right. I then thought maybe the back of the device with all the plugs would be more interesting. So I took a few of the back. This one's kind of blurry. This one's clear. So I'm going to delete this one. And this is a pretty cool epic photo. This could be cool too. This one's kind of boring. So I'm kind of nailing it down to like these three. So there's this one with the front. And then these two with the back, kind of like that one. But what I've learned is that sometimes when you put stuff into Photoshop, if you look at the photo itself, sorry about the dogs. You look at the photo itself and it looks good or it doesn't look so great. But once you put it into thumbnail size, good photos can become bad, bad photos can become good, etc. All that kind of stuff. So I appreciate. Sorry, I'm seeing kind words and I was like, I appreciate all that. But so anyway, that's why I do that. So I have these three things here. I'm going to open them up in Photoshop. Prior to that, though, I do just want to say like hi to a few people. Bradley, I saw your session yesterday and you were amazing at Leap Into Live. Thank you, 4C Lawrence or Ace Lawrence. Sorry, brain, for the kind words. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Edward. Sammy, definitely need a UPS and all that cool stuff. And let's see, if you got a specific thumbnail question, just put a Q in front of it and then I can search it up outside of the chat. This is an exercise in me trying not to get super distracted, which is a thing that happens. So now I've got my photos that I want to use. I'm going to open them up in Photoshop. This is probably where you're going to go like, hey, Tom, your workflow is like not super effective, but whatever. It's my workflow. Okay, if I switch over here, you should see Photoshop and you should still hear me. Everything should be good. And potentially there could even be like should be a little chat box up here, but I'm not seeing it. So up above me. Oh, look, there it is. Cool. The music shouldn't change when I change shots because it's all running through the Rodecaster, except when I messed up earlier. That was a mistake. So here we go. This document that I have open in Photoshop right now is my document that I keep using. It just has an old thumbnail. If you go to my website, the link in the description, this is the exact Photoshop document that you will download. It has a thank you message. And then it has the thumbnail that I basically use for this stream with all the elements on the different layers and stuff. I don't need those for here, so I'm actually going to just delete these. Because I don't need them. It also has a few other thumbnails, including the one from today. It has the USB mic. It's got this Pavo tube one, which is a total mess. And it's also just got some other essential elements in there. So there's some cool stuff that might be helpful to you. Let's look at today's thumbnail. This is from the video I made, the video I made today, because that makes sense, right? So today's thumbnail, I am way proud of this thumbnail. This is like one of my favorite ones I've ever made. And yeah, so There's the reason here is this was live streaming mistakes. It's not about a product. Products are kind of easy because you're just showing the thing. Like, make sure you see the product in the thumbnail. But this is like, okay. So I set up the camera. I think this was the EOS R because the Sony is in the frame, and just set up the timer. I use the remote. You can see my phone actually over here on the desk, kind of behind. Oh, I can't point to it, but it's kind of behind the EOS R. My phone is there because it was just a self timer app on the phone. That's all. And then I just added in all these different elements. So if we go through, a lot of these are just flame elements on this, and they're just set to a screen mode or to a blend mode of screen. If they're normal, it's just flames on a black background. But if you do screen, then it kind of like chroma keys them out, basically. And so there's just a lot of fire. A lot of fire I found online. The word mistakes, which I drew in Procreate and made the K a little crooked, like a mistake, even though I did that on purpose. I have this glow outline on me just to make me stand out a little bit more, and I'll talk about why in a second. A lot more fire, fire, fire. Lots of layers of fire. There's a glow to just try to make it look glowy. I used Procreate, which I'll do today as well, to kind of add some, I drew some flames, hand drew some flames around the border, and I also added in some glow. So if you look, oh, yeesh, that's close. But if you look at like the edge of the microphone and the edge of my face and stuff, I tried to draw in some glow so it looked like the fire from the screen was actually interacting with me. That's like pretty simple. And some smoke, and then a blue bar, and then lots of embers, lots of layers of just embers. And then I have 3 image layers. I have one that has a vignette on it to just sort of like really isolate things. One that is like my edited image, and one that's just the original image. So when I took the picture out of the camera, this is what that looked like. So I took that photo, I edited that photo, and it looked like this. And then basically what I did was I started adding in all these different elements, and they're in different orders. So like the smoke is behind the blue bar. The glow is above those things. You know, like there's actually a rhyme and a reason to the order that I put the layers in. The word mistakes is kind of in the middle, so that way there's flames behind it and flames in front of it. And then once this was all done, I thought this looked pretty good, but by adding that vignette, especially when you think of it being this big in somebody's, you know, like somebody's scrolling on their phone and your thumbnail pops up and it's this big, I thought the vignette just helped it kind of like pop out and isolate a little bit more. So that's kind of how today's thumbnail was put together. It's a lot of layers, it's a lot of stuff. And a big reason for that, I'll kind of tell you some of my philosophy real quick, and then I'll check in with the chat, and then we'll jump into editing. So here's the philosophy, is you want your stuff to be branded. This is easy because it's I'm in it, so you know it's me, but most of my thumbnails don't have me in them. They have something in them. So there's a few elements I try to include. The color blue, glowing outlines, and then hand-drawn text is a big one for me. But I feel like I've been putting too much text in my thumbnails. And the problem is when I scale the thumbnails down, like actually, oh, you know what? We'll just hide this group. So let's look at the neat widget, for example. This is a decent thumbnail. It's got the big title and it's got sort of a sub headline. And when you scale it down, maybe on the stream you can't read it, but on my computer, thumbnail size, I can read it. The problem that I wasn't considering is that people aren't going to sit there and try to read your thumbnail. They're going to just scroll through. And especially if they're using a phone where there might be 4 or 5 thumbnails on their screen at a time, that's not a lot of time for yours to stand out. And if you grab their attention, it's good, but if there's too much stuff for them to try to look at and make sense of, they'll just keep scrolling. They'll get eye fatigue and brain fatigue, and then they'll leave it there. So I was realizing that was kind of a problem, and I've been trying to then, in more recent thumbnails, to make them very visually appealing with only like maybe one big word. And in this case, a flaming computer that says mistakes, I think is pretty interesting. Plus, if you scale it down, the orange of the flame is very eye-catching, so when this video pops up in your feed, you just naturally, your eye goes to that. It's like a billboard. You know, you're driving on the road and you see a billboard. They don't have a lot of time to explain a ton of details to you. They got to grab your attention and explain stuff to you as you're driving by it at 70 miles an hour or whatever it might be. So that's kind of like What I've been trying to do lately is make them more visually striking with less text. And it's not clickbaity because the videos deliver, but something that's very interesting. One of our friends in the Ecamm Live group calls it scroll stopping. So people scroll and they stop scrolling to see what the heck is this, and they go on it. And of course the title, because people will see the thumbnail first, then they'll see the title, then they'll click on the video. So the title has to play on it. So today's video is this, popped up, boom, mistakes. And then the title was live streaming mistakes I see all the time. Okay. And then that's what the video is about. It's not clickbait. So that's what we're going to try to do today. But the difference is we're working with something that's a little less exciting. We're working with just a black power supply box, which isn't the most visually appealing. So it's going to be a challenge. So before we start editing that, I'm just going to check in here with everybody real quick. And yeah, so Louis is saying, is less more when it comes to thumbnails? I kind of think so. You might notice this week on Monday, I did a video with Mr. Camera Junkie, who was in here earlier. I don't know if he's still here, and whose playlist I'm using as background music right now. And it was about the Stream Deck. And literally the thumbnail was just Stream Deck, Final Cut logo, and an arrow to show you like Final Cut into Stream Deck. And I think less is more, and I think I've been putting too much into my thumbnails. They look good from a design and photo standpoint, but from a YouTube standpoint, I don't think they're as effective as they could be. And I went back to my channel and looked up my like most popular like 20 videos, and I noticed that they tended to have less text, and they tended to have a really clear like boom thing. This is what it is. There's the text. It's not like you're not trying to decipher stuff while looking at the thumbnails. That's kind of the main point there. But I should try to not say so much. Ever consider an upside down thumbnail? I mean, there's definitely things you got to do to like break out, but in YouTube it's weird because obviously people use stuff like crazy facial expressions or red arrows and circles pointing at stuff everywhere, and that gets people's attention. Like psychologically it just works, but it's also, you know, especially with, I feel like my channel and my audience personally, I've built up sort of a relationship where I don't want to then be like, what is this guy doing? I do have a video coming out soon, I don't know when, that intentionally has the worst thumbnail I've ever made for it. So when you see a video and you're like, what is Tom doing? It's on purpose, and you'll understand why. So just be prepared for that. Thank you, Coach Dev. I appreciate that. Oh, Epos Vox watched thumbnail tutorial. I saw the hand-drawn highlight bars, which is really cool. And he has a colored, he has this purple one now, which is awesome. And that's like, that's the cool thing when you teach people how to do stuff on YouTube, is then you see people doing it on YouTube, and I think that's really neat. And they do their own thing with it, and they teach other people how to do it, and it's, you know, it's really, really fun. So, Chris, you're bringing up a good point. Your content is a living entity, always evolving. Yes. So, let's bring some photos into Photoshop. Where's my Photoshop button? Oh, it's switched. Why does this keep switching profiles? I don't know. I need to be more of a... what's this called? Stream Deck Pro. All right, so here's Photoshop. I've got our few images here. I'm going to bring one of them in. Now, since these are raw photos, oh, you might not be able to see that. I'll have to do the desktop. Since these are raw photos, when I bring them into Photoshop, it automatically opens the raw photo editor, which I can make a little bigger for here. And this is where I make some basic adjustments. So literally I go into the basics and I adjust the exposure a little bit. Keep an eye on the histogram and everything, but I just kind of go with what looks good. Usually I take down the highlights. My stuff tends to be a little overexposed, but that's kind of on purpose for YouTube. And then I play with the texture. If I bring the texture all the way up, sometimes it looks super fake. This looks like those old photos you get taken in the mall back in the day where they'd be all fuzzy. So usually add a little bit of texture, maybe some clarity, boost up vibrance and saturation. I like bright colors. This one has a big blue background. That's super cool. I adjust the curve a little bit, which just sort of lets me fine tune some of these things a little more. And again, I'm just doing what I think looks good for a specific photo. I'm not going too crazy here, and you'll see why. Sometimes I go into the color mixer, and you can even change stuff. So if I wanted this blue to be more of a purple than a blue, I could do that. But I actually don't. I bought this blue background because I like this specific blue background. But I could like crazy saturate it, desaturate it. I'm not going to do anything too crazy there. And that's kind of where we'll leave it for there. So just basic touch-ups. And then this is a 1920 by 1080 pixel document with a resolution of 300. And I am actually going to get rid of all my other... No, I won't do that. What are we doing here? Oh, Oh, I have the wrong thing selected. I swear I've used Photoshop for like 20 years. Oh gosh, because I have all these other things. I just transformed like an entire folder on accident. I didn't mean to do that. So anyway, I just start playing with some basic composition. Oftentimes I'll shoot my thumbnails a little wider than I know they'll be. Like, I don't think I'm going to include the roadcaster and stuff in here, but I can then play with this. I have these rulers on to show my center point. I can play with kind of leveling this out a little bit so it's even. I can make it bigger. Something like this is kind of looking neat. I like it when you can see a little of the background because I think it just makes it more visually interesting. So I think this is kind of cool if we make it smaller. It's something to work with. And then I'll do that same thing with these other two images. So this is the one of the back of the power supply. And so I'm just making this the exact same adjustments. Nothing too crazy because like Raphael Ludwig always says, fix it in camera, finesse it in post. So I tried to get as much correct as I could in camera. Yeah. And I do some other tricks later, so you'll kind of see like why I don't really focus on getting this part perfect. I like this. Oh, oops. So I'm just doing the transform tool in Photoshop to flip it around a little bit here. This is kind of neat. I'd like to make it maybe something kind of like this. I'm just lining up this makeshift table, which literally, you can totally see it. The table, quote unquote, that I was using is on top of a speaker and a little monitor stand. So it's like a bridge. I'm just trying to make that level with the ruler and then frame it up the way I like it. That's kind of cool. And then we'll do the third one. So I have these 3 photos that we're working with today. Just do the exact same thing. I'm sure I can make presets and I could do stuff like that, but my thumbnails change just enough where like presets aren't as helpful as you'd think they might be. There we go. So nothing crazy. Because I can always go back and fine tune things later. This is just to give me an idea of what each of these images looks like as a thumbnail. And then, actually that looks kind of neat if it's, yeah. Maybe whatever. This just gives me an idea of what these kind of look like in this space. Also keeping in mind that down here in the bottom right, a lot of times that's where YouTube is going to put the duration of your video. So you don't want to put important info in the bottom right because it's probably going to get covered up by the time of the video. So now we've got 3 things here. I can hide the rulers. So we've got these 3 images. We're just looking at the base images now. This one is very simple. It has the front of the thing and then a nice space for text. This one is the back. Maybe it's a little more interesting. Still some room for text. And this one is just sort of a different angle. So these 2 are kind of the same. I bet we could delete one. But so here I'm going to call these numbers. I'm going to call this 1, 2, and 3. So the one of the front I'm going to call number 1. This one I'm going to call number 2, and this slightly other angle I'll call number 3. If you have preferences, let me know, and I will check in now with the chat and any questions that we might have. James and Mark, do you have a default template size? Yes, 1920 by 1080, which is just full HD with a resolution of 300. As long as your final file output is not bigger than 2 megabytes, it's fine for YouTube. So if you do that on Canva, Photoshop, whatever, like James, I know you have Adobe stuff, it should be totally fine. And here, and let me jump back in to check in on everyone here. I just want to make sure. Yeah, so the thing is, the thing of like pointing to a thing with a dumb face is like proven to be effective. It will get more clicks, which is very annoying because those are very annoying thumbnails, but people know that, and at a certain point it's like I could spend all day doing this artistic thing, or I could just make a dumb face and like get clicks. And if the video is still good, I think Linus Tech Tips is one of the main ones who's like actually even explained this in videos where he's like, I hate my thumbnails, but they get people to click, and I like my videos, and I want people to watch my videos. So it's just sort of that there. Just trying to make sure stuff here. Remember, if you have a specific question, to do a Q colon, because then I can search it. How do you make these types of thumbnails real quick? You don't. That's the thing, is the other thing I have noticed is if I go to my channel, I look at my more popular videos, or even videos that just perform well, there's almost like a 1-to-1 correlation between the more time I spend on the thumbnail, the better the video did. So I don't know. I'm sure some people can make amazing thumbnails really quickly. If you do hotel room reviews, should I put the hotel's name in the thumbnail? It depends. If it's just like John's Beach Motel, probably not. But if it's like the Ritz-Carlton and you can put the Ritz logo or whatever, that could be kind of a cool thing to do. It sort of depends on the subject, of course. Yeah. You can upload bigger image file sizes on a studio. Really? I didn't know that. I'll have to try that. I have not done that myself yet. So let's see here. Let's jump back into, I see music glitch was switching, but I don't know what that means. So we're gonna jump back into Photoshop here, and now we're gonna play around with, let me know if you have a preference of any of these thumbnails here that we're looking at. So this would be number 3, number 2, or number 1. I'm going to go ahead and guess we could probably eliminate number 3 or 2 because they're very, very similar. I'm trying to think of where text would go. So the big question, I guess, would be is, do we want to see the front of this, or do we want to see the back of it? And it also depends on what words I'm going to put. I was thinking of something along the lines of like, big mistake, or don't ignore this, because the approach that I'm taking with the video is it's a big mistake not to use one of these. And so I'm hoping that the video will introduce the idea of an uninterruptible power supply to people who haven't heard of it, and then it might help them out. It might help them out. So Matt, you're saying number 1, which is this one. I think this is the one you had the most input on, so you might be biased. But this is going to be, I think, the best one for adding in text. I think I'm leaning towards 1, because this, I think, is too much to look at. So let's try 1. Thanks, Agrock. I heard you say I'm awesome, and I appreciate that. So when I switch scenes, there's a loud music bump. That's weird, because the music's not running through... because the music's like literally not running through the computer. So it shouldn't even be affected. Let me see. If I go main and I go here and I go here, there's my iPad. I go here, nothing is changing. I don't know. Nothing's changing on my end, but it's curious. So let's go with number 1 then. Let's start there, because sometimes what I'll do is I will basically make a thumbnail, and then if I decide halfway through that like, this isn't working for me, then I'll get rid of it. But there's a few things here that I want to do, so I'm going to play with this a little bit. I think I wanted to get rid of the speaker. There's like my speaker that's pointing in on the side. I think I want to get rid of that. Let me see though. Do I want to get rid of that? Yeah, we don't need that. Yeah, I think this is going to be good. We'll start here. So, the next thing that I do, especially with something like this, where the actual product itself, the thing we're focusing on, is just, it looks like a cheap PC. It's just a black piece of electronic gear. I'm going to rasterize this layer, and then I usually also copy it just so I have a backup of the original. And so now we're going to start making some adjustments here. The biggest one is, for me, for YouTube thumbnails, is dodging and burning. So I'm going to go over here to the dodge tool, which is essentially going to increase exposure in certain areas. Now, something I could do is use like the magnetic lasso and the magnetic Ted lasso and just outline the product. Doesn't have to be perfect. Oh, I clicked too much and it undid all my work. I got impatient. That'll teach me. It won't actually, because I'm like 35 and I'm still super impatient with stuff. Okay, so we're gonna come around here, and now we have our selection. And so that way I can use this dodge tool, and it's only going to affect what's happening in here and not outside of this selection. And what dodge does is it just increases exposure. So stuff like this screen, that's too much. But just to show you what it did, if I did that, it just slowly like increases the exposure of the screen. And it's that I really overdid that. There we go. But I want to increase it a little bit. I want to increase that. Just go over here, kind of like basically make this stand out. Here's a very important thing though. When you're making a YouTube thumbnail, you might find yourself breaking rules that would normally apply to things like good photo editing or good design. You want your thumbnails to have good design, but if you're going to make something that's going to be on a large screen or printed out and framed or whatever, you're going to approach that so differently than like a YouTube thumbnail. So the YouTube thumbnail, sometimes like I am cranking the exposure way more than I would in a lot of places here, specifically because I need this to pop when it's thumbnail size, boop, on somebody's phone or device or whatever they're watching the video on. So you're kind of like exaggerating stuff. Sometimes the colors might be too extreme. Sometimes they might be like, yeah. So I'm bringing this back down on the button. The opposite of dodging is burning, and that's just decreasing exposure in certain areas. And that's pretty much that. And so all that did, if I zoom out and deselect that, you can see here it just sort of like makes the thing pop out a little bit more. It's pretty subtle, but actually it's kind of a drastic difference, honestly. Using Affinity Photo. I would love to use Affinity. I haven't done it yet, but I've heard great things about it. Magnetic Lasso for me in this case worked really well because it's on a blue background. And normally I would take a product photo on this table and then it would have, where is it? Yeah, it's on the table and then the wall is just the background. However, I didn't do that this time because I figured this black product with this sort of dark wall, it's gonna blend in. So that's why we ended up using the backdrop here, which was an idea I came up with during the stream, and it stands out a lot more. Let's see here. Aaron, what do you think about extreme close-up? I thought about that because sometimes you want to do extreme close-ups and it could work. So that would be like, there should be enough resolution. Like taking a part, of the correct frame, taking a part of your product and like almost confusing the viewer, like what the heck is this sort of a situation with some text right there. And that could work. In this case, my thought process was that since people are probably not super familiar with what this even is, showing the whole thing might help, because I actually do want to provide some clarity. Aditya, I've got to leave right now. Yes, this will be here, so you can rewatch it. No worries. No worries. Nerd Shuttle, was there a point when you were indecisive on thumbnail design? They evolve. We can even do this later, and I'll do more of a Q&A towards the end of the stream. But if you go to my channel and you sort videos oldest to newest and you scroll through, you can just see the development of thumbnails. I never did the thing where like I change a thumbnail style and go back and change old ones. So you can see the evolution over time. We'll talk about that later in the stream too, because it's kind of interesting. I really, really, really want to try Affinity because I love Photoshop. Like I really love Photoshop. I hate Adobe's subscription model. It's awful. And it used to be a huge part of my job was being like an Adobe administrator to a big lab of licenses, and I hated it. And that was enough to make me like not want to use Adobe, but I love Photoshop. And I know Affinity Designer is also very good. Aaron, you're trying to get into Affinity. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like I've been using Photoshop for like 20 years and I don't want to lose those muscles. And I feel like Photoshop's a really valuable skill to have, so I don't want to get not current with it. And also, Aaron, I think I missed your stream, but I want to watch your studio tour stream. So AgRock, your studio is huge and amazing. It's this is a wide angle. It's just a bedroom. It's not that big. So extreme close-up call out. This could be a good idea. So what Aaron is saying is that I have my wide thing here, but what about a close-up? It could be a good idea to do literally 2 thumbnails and then see like which one looks better, or even switch them out after the video goes live if one doesn't seem to be performing well. Because as you might know, if you're a YouTube person, just simply switching out your thumbnail can like change an entire video's performance. But yeah, so anyway, we'll focus on the process here, and then we'll kind of go through some of the philosophy stuff. The next thing I want to do is, there's dusties up in here. Look at these little dust speckles. I don't like that. So I use the healing brush in Photoshop, and I do this on like everything. Heather always makes fun of me, and I just go through and get rid of all the little dusties. The healing brush got so good that it like, sometimes it makes mistakes, but for the most part, it's really good. And I can get rid of all these little dusty things that are going to be distracting and annoying. And like, I just don't want people to think, wow, this guy took a picture of like a dusty piece of electronics in like the corner of a room. That's sad. Why would I want to watch that video? I want people to be enthralled. Scroll stopping. No, Aaron, no worries. I scheduled this randomly, so I just wanted to see your studio tour because, yeah, I just wanted to see your studio tour. Yeah, Adobe's business model. They used to do it for teachers when I was a teacher. You could license devices. So each computer would have Creative Cloud on it, and I would have to renew that subscription every year. But then they changed that so that you have to do it per student. I had 230 students. So I had to make 230 individual accounts, teach 230 students how to use Adobe Creative Cloud application, desktop application. And that was annoying. And then it like literally 25% of my teaching job was just Adobe administrative stuff. So that turned me off of it a lot. But anyway, this guy's looking nice and shiny right now. And if we see the original versus this one, there's a pretty big difference. Boop, boop. It's also important for those of you, well, nobody has seen the video yet. The video is not about this specific power supply. It's about the idea of using one. So I don't really care about showing the brand. I don't really care about, in fact, I might even take the brand off of it. Which, watch the magic of Adobe's, what's it called? I can't think of what it's called. But they're smart. Content aware fill, that's what it's called. Shift delete, boom. Look at that. Well, there's a little smudgy there, but now there's no logo on it. I'm not sure if I want to do that or not, so we'll leave that there. Yeah, so anyway, this I think is a good image. I'm going to save it. That's important. I think this is a good place to start. So then what I'm going to do is file, save as. I don't really care what I call this. So call it keyboard smash. And then I'm going to save this to my desktop. But we are far from finished, people. We are far from finished. So the next step is to find it on my desktop. Can I do that? Here it is. The next step is to whip out the old iPad and airdrop it to here. Because this is where Procreate comes into play. Procreate is, if you have an iPad, get Procreate. I think it's $20. Some of the best money you can spend. There we go. We've got that. I'm just going to open up the photo here for a second. Boom. So now I've got that photo here. And we'll jump into Procreate right now, but first let's check out the chat. Content aware fill is so good. You can tell me some stories. Oh wow. Way back when I had some hair. Adobe, see the thing with Adobe is, and I know this is slightly off topic, but it's also slightly not. Adobe Max is coming up, which is free because it's virtual this year. So you can search up Adobe Max. You can register for free. Super great conference. Heather and I got to go in person a few years ago. And part of Adobe Max is they have Adobe engineers just come out and show you random stuff they're working on, which later you could see in like, oh, Photoshop has this new feature, or Audition can do something, or Premiere or whatever. It's really cool to see what they're like brainstorming and coming up with. Adobe designers, engineers, developers are like some of the biggest geniuses on the planet. They're amazing. The problem is the way Adobe handles the business life. Like the potential is so great and the effort that goes into making their stuff is so intense, but the part where you like have to have your anyway, I'm frustrated with Adobe. Oh, Procreate's only $10. Are you serious? Oh my god. What is a good font to use on a photo like you're using or a clip art? It very much depends, but just making it readable and making it fit you. If you're being really goofy, but you're using like a super serious artsy font, you know, it might not fit. Just use Comic Sans. What are the specs on my iPad? This is the 2020 iPad Pro. So it's not the M1 or anything. It's like the one before the M1. And I have it set up so you can see the screen. I should have that set up at least. So I think I can press a button here that's called iPad. And then believe it or not, you see the crooked iPad. Yay. All right. So we have the image over here in Procreate. Boots, 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 animating. Okay. And a lot of you have seen like some of my Procreate stuff in the past. So so this is sort of what I do here. This is just a new document that is this Photoshop file, and there's nothing on it. So I always create a new layer, and we're going to start with the glowing outlines. So the glowing outlines, I use the Luminance light pen, and I have my most recent thumbnail videos all about this. And I usually select, I kind of have my like main colors already here. So, you know, the light pen is just what does these sort of neon things. And of course the Apple Pencil's pressure sensitive, so it's really, really nice. And I have just a cheapo matte screen protector on here. It's very much, I think there's one called Paper-like that's like $40. This was from a brand called iCares. And it was 2 for $7 on like Amazon or something. And it's great. I've used these for years, but they really, with the Apple Pencil, it feels like drawing on paper. So I try to figure out a color. Normally I'll use either blue, white, or like pinkish magenta for the glow. In this case, since the background is blue, it makes sense to use the magenta. So we're going to outline this. In Procreate, if you draw a line and then you just hold it, it will either make it more perfect. So if there's a curve, it will make it a more perfect curve. If the line's kind of straight, it will make it a perfectly straight line. On things like this, that's very helpful because I can then just make all these edges nice and straight. And I don't want to get like, I'm going to get like real close to the microphone here. And I don't like that edge. There we go. It's hard to like blend the light pen where one ends and one begins. But fortunately, since the thumbnails will be tiny, most people don't usually notice. But I like this light pen because it not only does the main line, but it also does a glow around it. And I think that's really cool. And I just always make sure to do it on its own layer, not on the actual image. So there we go. Do another one here. And I hear my royalty-free playlist playing songs I recognize from other people's videos. There we go. So there's a basic outline. Then I usually like to add some white, make it a little smaller. And I like to do like these sort of accent lines here. Boom. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. It's just sort of, it's what it came from was these like anime lines when something gets really exciting and you see like, I know that's over, like, it doesn't look right there, but anyway, I like this kind of like emphasis looking thing. And so that's what I try to do in my thumbnails. Sometimes I do two like that. Basically just things to make it look a little more interesting. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. There's a few other things I want to do here. My voice is relaxing. Yes. How does one cure oneself from crippling gas? Oh, you don't. You just run out of money and then you can't buy more stuff. Oh, show and tech. Are you considering the new iPad mini? I love this one. This iPad works great. So I'm happy. Like, I honestly don't get new tech that often, new computers and stuff. Like, I have an iPhone XR that's, unless I break it, easily good for another year or two. Get computers. My old, prior to the Mac Mini, like my MacBook Pro's 2013. I still use it. So anyway, next thing that I add is, I should probably turn on Do Not Disturb. Next thing that I add is my mom sent me a message that she bought a new bicycle, and I'm very excited for her. She's been looking for a new bike for like years. Anyway, the next thing, I'll make a new layer, and now I'm gonna add in lens flares. I know it's cheesy. Tom J. Abrams over here, but again, we're trying to grab attention. I usually add in lens flares on any light source, which is one reason I wanted a visible light source here. And sometimes you can make your flare like point at the device or at the thing. But in this case, I think I'm going to have text in this middle portion. So I'm going to make the flare kind of like that. That's pretty sweet. Sometimes I usually put each flare on its own layer. And then sometimes I'll add like a flare to the actual thing, like maybe on the edge. In this case, there's like a button here. That might be kind of cool. And that's like a little intense. So I'm going to bring down the opacity. I don't know. It's a little cheesy. We can always change that later. But again, just trying to stop people as they're scrolling. Just trying to stop people. Oh, Ron, you're here. What's up? Wait, lose the name. Replace it with Tom Buck. Oh, yeah. If you guys have a question, you put a Q in it. I can search it up more easily. And it really, really helps. Because I'm using Ecamm Live and I can search up for things. But also this chat's been super manageable. So anyway, microphone sounds so good. Great. This is the SM7B running through. It's actually running through a FET head into the Rodecaster. It's a good mic. Couple other. Now we're gonna like be ridiculous with this thumbnail a little bit. We're going to add a new layer, and this one. Actually, I added 2 layers. This one's going to be a little silly. I don't know if we're going to use the bokeh lights, but like, I'm not going to lie, I like them. It's just like a little, again, this thing's going to be so tiny in people's feeds. I want to make it look interesting. That's too much. That might be actually pretty good. Talu, I see your question. I'm using Procreate on the iPad. Now, this is something I've kind of been waiting for, if I could find it. There's also cool stuff like these oh wait, that's the bokeh. Glimmer is kind of fun, especially if it's big. You can go like, which is like very easy to be cheesy with, so I don't think I'm going to do that today. These nebula things are kind of cool. There's all kinds, like the luminance setting in Procreate is amazing. But what I wanted to do, I can't remember where it was. There's one thing that's like lightning bolts. And sometimes I can draw lightning bolts, but there's like a brush. And I honestly just can't remember. I can't remember what thing it's under. I don't think it's abstract. So everything, I don't have any additional brushes installed on my Procreate. So everything here is just what you get when you, oh no, I guess I do. I have these pine trees. I'm not using pine trees today though. Maybe I can't find my lightning bolts. If not, I'll just draw them, but I swear I thought, there they are, bolt. Yes, look how cool that is. Those are so cool. I've been wanting a thumbnail where I can use these. And what these do is if I select a color, it doesn't just do that color, it does like variations on that color. Yeah, so we're gonna, since this is a power supply, yeah, since this is a power supply, that's what we're kind of going with here. And I don't really know what I'm doing. Something like this is kind of cool. I see Callie Kai, Dad, do you, sort of new to your channel, just forgive my question, do you have create classes on Adobe Procreate? I have video tutorials. Adobe, my main thing is Photoshop and Audition. And I do a lot of Final Cut stuff. And I have Procreate videos as well. Procreate is iPad only. It's a mobile app, but it's so incredibly powerful. So anyway, the next thing that I want to focus on before I add any more wacky elements is I want to add in some text. Just because I'm a weirdo, I like to hand draw all of my text, even though it's like literally the same as a font you could find, because I'm bad at time management. But I don't know, I like it. I've been using bold Helvetica a lot lately. Well, lately for like 15 years. Hey, edit the text. So now I'm trying to think of what I wanted to do. What I was thinking is literally having this thumbnail say, don't ignore this. Oops. Don't ignore this, or something like that. Actually, I should have done this in Photoshop. Yeah, let's jump back into Photoshop real quick. Because it's easier to edit text in Photoshop. Ron is saying it would be great if they translated Procreate to run on a Silicon Mac. That would be, or an M1 Mac. That would be amazing. I would love that. So, I tried to make my handwriting into a font the other day. That's what this is. This is my font. But it didn't come out exactly right. So we're not going to use that. And I called it Tom Vetica. Nobody was supposed to see that. But anyway, this is Helvetica. Helvetica, yeah. And anyway, don't ignore this. And now we're just going to play with fixing how terrible that looks. It might even be better if it's, oops, if it's aligned this way, maybe. I usually keep my text, I should say this, I usually keep my text white. I'm open to other ideas on the thumbnail text too, by the way. But I was thinking of something like this, so that when you're going through, it's literally like, don't ignore this. My other idea was to have it say, big mistake, or huge mistake. Because it's a huge mistake not to use one of these things. But I just did a video today that literally says mistakes really big on the top of it. But I was thinking of doing something like this. And I'll show you why I'm doing this on the computer and not by hand in a second. But it will be done by hand. So it could be like mistake. Huge mistake always reminds me of Arrested Development. Huge. And then we can take like, we can literally make the words like the same length. Something like that, maybe. Bring them down. Something along these lines. Actually, that's kind of cool. I kind of like that. I'm not going to lie. I like that. When I do my actual font, I'm going to call it Tomic Sans. Oh, wait. Yeah, Michael. Oh, man. Great minds. Great minds. Tom's New Roman. Oh, my God. There's so many good ones. You hand draw your text so much. Have you thought about taking time to create? Oh, yeah. This was maybe before we got to that part. So, Skater Boy says it's firelit. This chat is firelit. That's from my video today. So, I kind of like this. And again, it's not polished up. It's not exactly how it's going to be. I just think it's kind of, good. The other option was don't ignore this. But I'm talking about the power supply. So I could even put the arrow. I don't know if I have I have a little hand-drawn arrow. So I could say don't ignore this with like, whoop, an arrow going at the bottom. Or just huge mistake. And I could even still have the arrow pointing to this. And people are like, what is this thing? It's kind of clickbaity. But like, I want people to click on it. And the video is about how it's a huge mistake not to use this. Yes. You could use reverse psychology and say, don't use this. Don't touch this. Mac, you said you wouldn't mind the word mistake because this video is not going to come out for. This video won't come out. It's not going to come out next. I just did a video today. It's not going to come out next Thursday, possibly like 2 weeks. So people will forget, you know. Don't ignore this. Sounds like you're ignore the video, but if you put a whoosh on the UPS, Verdana bold is good. So we're saying don't ignore this. Can't I do a poll? Can't I do a poll? I'm gonna open up a thing here. I hope it doesn't mess up the audio because I think I can run a poll in the chat from YouTube, and that would be awesome. Oh, look at that. There's a poll. Okay. So don't, I'm gonna do both text options. Don't ignore this and huge mistake. And I'm gonna ask a poll in the chat, and then you guys can tell me what you think. Because I mean, it's more interesting to see what other people are gonna say. So there's don't ignore this. And again, we're thinking of small, and then there's huge mistake. Either one of these would probably end up with an arrow pointing to the UPS. Oops, that was a mistake. So I'm just showing you at different sizes. Don't ignore this, huge mistake. Oh, now I turned on the wrong thing. So don't ignore this, huge mistake. Where are we at in the polls? Huge mistake has 58% of the vote. This is like the California recall election. It's 42% to 58% with 19 votes. I like, the reason I like huge mistake is because it's interesting. Right, huge mistake looks like it's a mistake. Sounds too clickbaity. Right. Don't ignore this, less clickbaity. There's that fine line of like, it is kind of clickbait because I do want people to click on it, but the video will deliver, because there's also going to be a title, and the title, I forget what the title says, but the title says something about uninterruptible power supply. Like, the title's not hiding what the video's about or anything. This is just the thumbnail to grab the attention, to look at the title, to then decide, do I want to click on it? The reason I like huge mistake, even beyond phrasing, is I just like the geometry of the words together. Huge being really big, it makes sense. It's kind of cool. I can fit them in that neat little square. It, like, designy wise, it fits the space well. That's honestly why I like it. I don't ignore this actually could fit though, because if I make it a little bigger, it can go right around the little light bulb. That's a light bulb moment right there. And the reason I have it overlapping is I'm going to put these letters behind the actual UPS. So we have all these options here. All right, I'm just going to go with the poll. The poll says huge mistake. I sure hope that's not a huge mistake. Yes. Huge mistake for me is what happened I need to know. Yeah. So, okay, we'll go with the poll. We'll do huge mistake, which is fine because it's fewer words for me to draw. So there's also a reason I preferred that. Oh, shoot. I realized that's weird that my comments were all over the place there. That was interesting. But what I need to do now is I'm going to take that text. Sometimes I do this when I save it for the first time, but I just forgot. You might say I made a huge mistake. And I'm going to save it as a PNG image. Boom. And then I'm going to airdrop that to the iPad. And then I just trace. I have a font. I have my handwriting that I do that's not tracing, which is, you know, it's very much like human handwriting. But I have found that if I'm doing something big and bold, like in this case, what would look like, whoa, that was weird. What would look like a Helvetica, and I try to do it totally freehand, it goes in this like uncanny valley territory of it looks weird. And whoa, what the heck? I have made a huge mistake. Did I not? Oh, I didn't save it as a PNG. I saved it as a JPEG. Yes, that was a mistake. Oftentimes I will do what we just did in Photoshop and put the preliminary text on the thumbnail before I airdrop it to the iPad, which is a little bit better because then I can just trace over it right away. I just forgot to do that today. So PoBuddy's nerfect. There it is. Okay, now I can bring up the iPad again. Boom, there we go. So there's the text that I got. All right, we're going to play with the framing a little bit, but right now I'm going to basically draw the text. So what I do is I just change the opacity a little bit and then create a new layer above it. I like using, this is going to take a while, so get ready for some excitement. I use the calligraphy brush and the monoline one and just sort of, oops, what am I doing here? Dude, you got to be on a new layer. There we go. Maybe a little thicker than that. Cool. And then I just outline the letters, like nothing too crazy. Matt's UPS is so heavy to get one for my sons over to lift it. Okay, you have like a high-end UPS. Mine is heavy, but it's like 25 pounds, and the whole thing was only $100. I don't know what the lifespan is. I haven't used one yet. If you don't know what a UPS is, and you weren't here to watch the recording of my video, basically, it's an uninterrupted or an uninterruptible power supply. So it's like a big surge protector that you can plug your gear into, and it does protect your gear from electrical surges. But what it also does is it keeps the current consistent. So sometimes, even though you have things plugged into the wall, they're not actually getting the same amount of electrical current that they should be getting. And if you have something like a computer, that means it's constantly adjusting, like too little, too much, too little, too much. And it can put a lot of wear and tear and be dangerous for your gear. And then the bigger thing that a UPS does, the uninterruptible part, is it has a giant battery inside of it. So if your power goes out, the battery keeps it going. Depending on the unit you have, mine will go anywhere from 5 to 25 minutes, depending on how much stuff I have plugged into it. And then that will give you time, like if the power comes back on, you just never lose power. If the power is not going to come back on, it gives you time to shut everything down properly instead of just having it turn off. So if you have a lot of computers and photo gear and video gear and stuff, having a UPS is really smart, and I haven't been using one. And my video is all about the fact that as soon as I first started hearing about it, I started asking some people I knew, like, hey, have you ever heard of a UPS? And it felt like everybody was like, yeah, I've been using one for years. I was like, I've never known about this. And so I wanted to make a video to sort of help other people who are in that position where they don't even know that they should be using it. And anyway, it's a really cool thing. The video itself came out great. Like, I did it live, and it was cool because I got input from people in the chat, just like we're doing now. And it made the video better. It made it easier to edit. I'm very happy with the video, proud of the video. But all right. Is it okay to have thumbnails with the same theme and colors? I think so. I think a lot of it depends on your channel. If you look at certain channels, people use similar stuff all the time. I try to keep the same color palette of blues, magentas, and like whites in my thumbnails. And some people do stuff like, I don't know, if they do a tutorial, their thumbnail will be purple. If they do a review, the thumbnail will be blue. Like, they sort of theme little series. You can definitely do that. I would just avoid anything that makes every thumbnail look exactly the same, because then people are going to think, even though I've seen giant channels do this, so I could be totally wrong, I think people are going to think that they're just watching the same video. Like, I already saw that video. So I try to have some variation in there. But I've been using this blue backdrop a lot lately. So it was in last week's, no, not last week's video. What video was it in? Oh, it was in the one about my computer display arm. And I have another thumbnail with it, and it's also in this one. So it's like, you know, now there's a lot of thumbnails that have a blue backdrop, but I really like it. It blew me away. Ron is asking if we get brownouts. And yes, I live in the desert in Southern California. Today, it's going to be 106 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's like, I don't know, 40 something degrees Celsius. And that's hot. Fortunately, my area doesn't have a lot of power outages, but we get brownouts where basically it's like they limit the amount of voltage that's going out, and it really can tax your gear and cause problems for electronics and things because everyone's running their air conditioners. It's super hot where I live. Whoa. But because it's hot, everybody has good AC, which is nice. Ben, as a tech, my entire home network and studio is on 3 UPSs. Yeah, a big thing too is to also keep your modem and your Wi-Fi on one. So that way, if the power goes out and your computer doesn't turn off, but your modem does, that might still cause problems. So something to keep aware of. The one I have, the one that this video is about, has 10 outlets. So you can plug 10 things into it. And I think it's 1350 volts. And all the stuff that I have plugged into it is only 11% of its overall power. So it's like, I don't need a bigger one than this. A lot of people are always asking about my lights, especially when I did my lighting setup. They're like, your electric bill must be crazy, or the room must be so hot. It's like, these are all LED lights. They generate no heat, and they take up virtually no power. I mean, I think it changes our power bill. Maybe if you looked at where my room is now versus like 4 years ago before there were any video lights in here, I think monthly it changes it like 25 cents. Like, it's like nothing. Even though there's 13 video lights on in here right now. And that's cool because, I don't know, I'm trying to talk and draw and I can't do that. It's cool because prior to that, video lights used to be very, very hot and take up a lot of energy and be very dangerous. And so current new video lights are so much better. I remember ones where, like, if you even touched it, if you even got like any bit of finger oil on it, the bulb would pop. And it was just like, ugh, so frustrating. And they took a ton of power, and then they would be like dangerous to use because they would get hotter than the sun. So that's why I love my LED lights, dedicated video lights. Almost done here. So a lot of these, especially with Helvetica, I just draw a line and then let it go straight. And I know this seems very redundant, and it is. Aaron, oh yeah, you're someone. You had to plug a power strip into UPS because you have 40. Yeah, I figured you're somebody who has a lot of stuff. Matt, it's only 80 over in Nashville. Nice. Oh, Megan does themed. Go check out Megan's channel, and you'll see themed thumbnails. Super smart. And you're also someone who has that brain of like clarity, programming, all that kind of stuff. All right, so now I've got my letters outlined, except something happened down here on the S. It's a mistake. You know, I became a vegetarian a few years ago, and I like it, but a lot of people tell me it's a missed steak. Sammy, what are your thoughts on thumbnails for your interviews? Do they look repetitive? That's a good question. I mean, objectively, yes, they're kind of repetitive, but I don't think that's bad because you're doing like a recurring interview show. And I think that that's a good thing. It's like if you look at Philip DeFranco, he has, 7 million subscribers and basically the same thumbnail. He's in the middle making a face, and then there's like 2 celebrity images on the sides. And that's his thumbnail for every show for years. So sometimes, like, if you're doing recurring content like that, you can't push the boundaries every single time. You need it to be kind of similar. So what I've done now is, since I've outlined the letters, I took away everything except for the outline. And then I just go to the inking brushes. I said I just go to the inking brushes, and I use dry ink. Dry ink is really cool because I can show you. There's like a texture to it, and it's relatively random-ish. And so then I just fill in the letters with this texture. Basically something like this. and it's just sort of messy. And this is what, even though the letters look the same, they're all a little bit different. They're all their own little unique snowflakes. They're not totally perfect. There's, there's 2 E's in this, but each E is going to look a little bit slightly different. I don't know if a human being on planet Earth will notice that. So it's probably like, why don't you just use like a messy font or something? And I don't know. I haven't had a typed letter on my YouTube channel in actually like almost exactly 4 years, or a little over 4 years. And that is just a point of pride. That doesn't matter. But everything has been hand-drawn since then. And I like that. So then I just do that basically for every letter, which is very tedious. But hey, that's why we set aside time to stream today. The good news is it doesn't have to be perfect. And so it doesn't actually take that long. Because if I just fill it, it doesn't look that different, but I like the really messy look where, I don't know, I just like this messy look. And now that I've been doing it a lot, I don't know if this is a good reason to do everything, but since I have been doing this a lot, I guess you could call it's part of the brand. And so that's important because anybody can put up a picture of a UPS or a piece of gear or whatever. But when you see the hand-drawn hand Vedica, that's me. And then you'll be like, oh, I still don't want to watch that video. I'm kidding. I'm actually putting things that are not in other people's thumbnails. Thank you. Use a thing. A lot of people use similar thumbnails for their streams, and it's like, if you're someone who streams regularly, I think yours should look different. So like Sammy, where you're saying you're doing things that are different from other people's, and we can even look at yours in a minute when we're done with the thumbnail, if there's still time. It's good to make your thumbnail stand out and not look like everyone's. But if you're doing a weekly interview show, or even more than once a week, then you don't want to. There's nothing wrong with making the thumbnails look similar for your show, because your video thumbnails look different than your stream thumbnails. And that makes it easy for your viewers to know this is a stream versus this is a video. And that's pretty much that. So we just go in, fill these up. When I was in college for actually yesterday was my 15-year anniversary. I worked as a Trader Joe's sign artist for like 4 or 5 years when I was in college. And that was an amazing job. If you live in the United States and you go to a grocery store called Trader Joe's, each store has on-site artists to handle all of the signs, everything from the shelf signs all the way up to like the big giant crazy displays, like almost art installation type stuff. And our store had like 2 or 3 sign artists, so I got to be one of them, and it was super fun. They hired me because they wanted to try using Photoshop. They wanted to do things digitally, and they hired me for that. And after like a week, they were like, nope, Trader Joe's is hand done. We don't use Photoshop anymore. And I was like, crap, I don't know how to do stuff by hand. So I had to learn, like, it was really cool because it ended up being like getting paid to go to art school. Like they would, it was a really good job. They would let us get like learning equipment if we needed books or resources or whatever. They would pay for that for us. They'd let us go like shadow other artists at other stores. And you're just like, every time you're doing something, even though you're making like, it's just a sign for crackers or something, it's a 6 foot by 3 foot sign for crackers. And now you have to learn how to spray paint, how to cut wood, how to burn bamboo, how to do lettering. And you do that for years on end every day. And you like, it's like going to art school, but instead of going in debt, I got paid to go to art school. It was awesome. So anyway, a lot of what I do when it comes to lettering is just stuff I learned from Trader Joe's. That was an awesome job. So next time, if you ever go to a Trader Joe's, check out the signs and you'll see that they are all hand done. Even the little shelf tags with all the little sarcastic, cheesy comments on them. There we go. Huge mistake. There we go. All right. So now if we bring our full thumbnail together, this is kind of where we're at. It's not perfect and it's not done, but we're getting there. We're getting a lot closer. What I want to do now is add in more of these little lightning bolt thingies. I just don't remember where I got them from. I know I found them, but I lost them. It's abstract, right? They're lightning bolts. I think it was vintage. Yeah. I guess because the 80s are vintage, I was like, this isn't from the 50s. That makes me sad. Anyway. So anyway, I just thought maybe I could add in like some more little bolts. The thing I like about Procreate is to undo is just if you do something and you take 2 fingers and tap the screen, it will undo it. It's so handy. It's the best. I'm going to leave that there. I don't know that I like it, but I'm going to leave it there. I think that's pretty good for now. So here's what we do. I could actually export this whole thing as a Photoshop file with all the layers, but since I already have a Photoshop file open, I'm going to bring them in one by one and we can, actually that's going to be a total pain in the butt. We'll just do the Photoshop file. I lied. I am a filthy liar. So we will share PSD file, boom, to Tom's Mac Mini. Also, other people. My podcasting Discord. And then the other thing that I want to do is I do have a Procreate document that's just thumbnail, titles, and templates. And this just has like, some recurring elements that I use, including my arrow. Which I think, that arrow doesn't look right to me. I think this is the arrow I wanted. I've made a few. So I'm also going to airdrop this arrow. It's a PNG. Because it's sad but true, but arrows in YouTube thumbnails, they're effective. All right. So now let's jump in with the chat and then we'll go over to Photoshop again. Thank you guys for all the help. You're not going to win the efficiency. I am not. But something, I don't know, something, I just like it. Oh, Sammy, you know what, Sammy? If you ever are in need of part-time work, go to Trader Joe's. Like, the pay is good. I think you only need to work 3 days a week to get insurance. It's awesome. Plus, you get to make all kinds of dumb jokes on the signs, which is really cool, and I like that. Who told me about Procreate? I think I just found it out when I got the Apple Pencil. I had the original iPad Pro with like the first Apple Pencil. And when I got that, I was just looking up like apps that use Apple Pencil, and I found Procreate. And I've used Procreate ever since. And it's really good. 3-finger tap to redo. I actually didn't know that. What's up, Robotrix? It's nice to see you here. So I'm going to, let's go back to Photoshop. So now we have our, I have a crazy document over here that I'm going to open up in Photoshop. Boom. Here's everything in Procreate. It just saved it as layers, which is very, very cool. And then I am going to window, workspace. We just want to do vertical. There we go. So now this is just going to be my easy way of dragging layers from one to the other. So, huge mistake. I can actually turn these off and delete it. Here is our image. This is our real image that we're going to use. And now we can just start bringing stuff over. Here's our, uh-oh. Right. Let me see then. Oh no. Oh, this is why I like exporting as PNG. I was trying to be more efficient. This isn't hard though. I can do this. We got this. This is the power one here. If you do it as PNG and you drag the files over, they're perfectly aligned already. But if I'm doing it as Photoshop, it's not. Cali Kai Dad, when do you find your courses on Skillshare? I have 2 podcasting courses, which, hi, my name is Tom.com. But I don't have any of these. And mine are just self-hosted. They're not Skillshare hosted because I'm a control freak. If you couldn't tell by this workflow that I'm a little bit of a control freak, I am. Where the heck did these ones come from? I think these were the ones up here. Does he only respond to people with TV? Oh, no, I don't. Those are just channel members. We have a pretty manageable chat today, but if you had a question, you could put Q:question, but the chat's pretty manageable, so I feel pretty confident in my ability to keep up today. Sometimes it just gets a little tough, but no. This is open to everybody. The TV people are just channel members. They're VIPs, you know? Boom. And I'll show you what we're going to do with all these kind of annoying graphics. I'm not trying to make things annoying on purpose, I promise. Believe it or not. Some people don't believe that. We got that already. All right, I think that's actually all the things. There we go. Okay. So we've got all of the elements, which means I can close this out. I don't need it anymore. There we go. So the first thing that I actually want to do right now is change my framing, my composition of this a little bit. Because if you look, the amount of space between the edge of the words and the edge of the device, it's kind of lopsided. It leans, plus visually weighted, it just goes to the left. So I want to fix that. The way I'm going to do that is just to select, don't ignore this, get out of here. I am going to select all of these layers and then just sort of reposition them all at once with a little more balance. Remembering that down here at the bottom, like my cursor doesn't show up, but down here at the bottom right is where YouTube is going to put the running time of the video. So I don't want anything down there. And then we can just label stuff. So this is the lens flare there. I don't need to do anything with that. This is that lens flare. Oh, the bokeh. I don't think I saved the bokeh. That's okay, because I'll do it later. Huge mistake. Let's do this. What I'm going to do now with this is basically just take the polygonal select tool, run it over this, my stomach made a very weird gurgling noise, run it over this outline, and then just press delete. Boom. And now huge mistake looks like it's going behind the thing, which is one of my favorite things to do. I might also want to play with the opacity a little bit. Like 97% is almost 100, but it just is a little, it's a little less. That's math for you. Here's the bar. I don't know if I'm going to use the bar. I've been using this a lot, and I do like it for readability. So we'll see. I'm going to put that there. Maybe. And that's just about what, like, there are always rules to photography and design and all that stuff, but a lot of it is also just like what you like and what works with your sense of style and everything. So if you like something, that's a good enough reason to do it. Motivation quote of the day. I'm just changing some of the size, trying to align things, and we'll fine tune it a bit. This is pretty good. Okay, so we've got huge mistake. Now sometimes I add, believe it or not, I just actually add in a drop shadow, which I know is like, sometimes people laugh at drop shadows. But again, when this thing is this big, that little drop shadow kind of makes it pop out a little bit. We'll see. Aaron says, this is awesome, but I don't know if I could ever bring myself to spend this much time on a thumbnail. Oh, Arlen, can someone explain the effect of coloring versus a solid font for the lettering? Oh, I mean, like if you mean coloring, like drawing, like how I was hand drawing it, I just like that it just isn't perfect. It's just hand drawn, that's all. It's just personal preference. Robotrix, your son was here all night with you and bought the Touch Portal Pro. Looks awesome, but not tried yet. I've never used Touch Portal, but I love my Stream Deck. And Arlen, yeah, it's for me, it's just on my channel, hand-drawn stuff has been part of like the quote-unquote brand for a number of years, and I like doing it, and I think that it makes it a little unique, so I do it. But I don't know if like in terms of YouTube as YouTube, if it actually matters or not. So now we got this black bar. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to use it, but I am going to test it out. And basically I'm doing the same thing that I did with the letters. I'm just quickly going around the outline. The beauty of having that light brush outline is I don't have to be super specific with it. And what that did was it cut out the, oh, wow, I think I'm hungry. It cut out the UPS from the background a little bit. And I feel like this lens flare is too bright. So I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. Maybe you don't even need it. It's cool. Those lens flares we're going to keep. These guys we're going to resize a little bit. I actually like these bolts. I think they're cool. I wasn't sure if I was going to like them, but I do. And the outline is great. I usually put the outline up really close to the top. If you're not familiar with Photoshop and Procreate and all these, they work top down, so the layers that are up are the ones that are most visible, and they're covering up the things below it. These guys, over here, I think these are the ones that I want to erase a little bit, which I guess I could just do the same thing. It's nice kind of when the product is literally just a geometric shape like a rectangle, because I can so easily outline it. Normally the things I'm doing like microphones and boom arms, they have all these twists and turns and stuff. That's pretty sweet. Save. Now I did forget a couple of elements, so I need to bring those over. I think I had the arrow. Yeah, I did bring the arrow. I'm going to flip the arrow. Whop. Big mistake. Huge mistake. Huge. Probably put a stroke around the arrow. Again, remembering we're doing YouTube thumbnails here, so it's all about visibility and stuff, not like necessarily what you would do for high-class design. But a big arrow on a YouTube thumbnail works. Sammy's asking if I'll ever switch to Canva. I don't think I will, just because I use Photoshop. If anything, I would probably switch to Affinity just to try it out. But Canva's amazing, and the stuff I've seen Heather do in Canva is like mind-blowing. So I do like Canva. I realized, though, I forgot to save my bokeh, my fake bokeh. And that's okay, because I'll just send it over now. Boom. And obviously, like, if you save each of these elements to their own layer, it gives you more control over them. You could even go through and like change the color of some of the bokeh or the whatevers. Yes, so boom, there's the bokeh. That's actually cool. I'm glad that's there. I think that, oh, that's where the other lens flare was. Now it makes sense. I didn't realize I did those on the same layer. We will delete that. We don't need double lens flares. There we go, though. So that's cool. I think I'm liking this thumbnail. Huge mistake. So here we go. Let's take it back to the beginning. Let's go back to our roots here. So here was our original photo. And for those of you who've like shown up a little later, here's our original photo. Here is the updated version. So we did some dodging and burning to just make the device itself pop out. I have a black bar going behind it. I have a little cheesy lens flare on the power button. Don't judge me. I also have a lens flare on the light, which I love. I don't care. I don't feel judged. I've got the text, huge mistake, flashing. If this were a GIF on a website, it would look like that, flashing. Then we've got just power, like lightning bars. We've got the outline, the glowy outline. We've got more bars over here. We've got the arrow, and we've got the bokeh. And I think that is our thumbnail. I think that's good. I think we're good. Actually, I'm going to leave that up in case somebody has like a last minute idea. Because one thing I do add sometimes is this neon over here. which is not showing up. That's cool. Well, then I don't add that. I guess that's a sign. Maybe I can open up I have lots of thumbnail template files on my... No, that's not the one I wanted, though. I just want my little neons. It must be this one. Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna steal an element from this one. I mean, I made it, so I'm not stealing it. There we go. So I have these neon lines that are saved. I don't know why the other one wasn't showing up. And oftentimes what I'll do is I'll put these on top of the black bar. But sometimes it's a little much also. So like, I don't know if you can use your imagination to kind of see what that would look like. But what I also do is I can change the coloring of them. I'm just using the hue and saturation thing. I don't know why it's not showing up on screen there, but sometimes I can change the coloring of it. I think I might want to play with this. So rasterize that layer via cut. I wish you could see my menus. For some reason the menus aren't showing up, just Photoshop is showing up, which is making me sad. There we go. Just trying to line it up down here. Something kind of like that, which obviously I'm going to cut these out. Yeah, I think I might do that. Just boop. And then boop. Just the good old eraser tool. Can't go wrong with it. I don't know. I kind of think no neon. Well, let's merge our neon layers. Or was the other one? There. Command E to merge. Boom. So there's no neon. Yes, neon. I kind of like neon. What would be the corresponding title for this video? The one I'm working on is like... Actually, let me bring up my notes app so I can see what I had written down. Oh no, it was in my YouTube studio because the video is actually already uploaded. I just don't have a thumbnail for it. That's what we needed to do today. So I currently have it titled "The Most Important Piece of Computer Gear That You're Probably Ignoring." That's a really long title. I need help with a title. So let's upload this thumbnail actually. Let's upload it and then hey, and then we can all do that together. I'm going to check in with comments. I think we're done with the thumbnail. If we go back to Photoshop, this is where we're at. I think I like it with the neon. I think that fills it in just a little bit. Yeah, I think I'm liking that. And then I'm going to save it. Whoa. Wow. Being a human is hard. UPS thumbnail. That's what I'm going to call it. And save it as a JPEG. And see, even with all this stuff, once I go to save it in Photoshop, it's going to be 1.4 megabytes. So that's plenty right size for Photoshop. Okay, you're saying neon. I like it. Just saw this was happening and have to rewatch from the beginning. Well, check this out, Mike, because if you go into the description of this stream, you can find a replay of a stream that I did earlier this week where I actually recorded the whole video. I'll show you that. People are saying with neon. Would the arrow be hard to see on a small screen? You know what? You raise a very good point. So the arrow is the same color as the background. And you're not wrong. Because the most common thing to do in YouTube land is a big fat red arrow. But I just can't. Like, I just can't do that. And so white arrow would kind of blend in. Maybe I could do like a... like the pink. I can't get like the right one. It's not terrible. We'll see how it looks. Once we upload it to YouTube, we'll see how it actually looks. So... hey Zen, love the neon lights, always want to learn how. Good, I'm glad it was helpful. Don't ignore this gear. Everything's bigger on a desktop. Yes, for sure. So let's go through the last step of the process. We got about 20 minutes left in the stream here. I got nothing. Here we go. I'm going to make my Chrome window bigger and then show you my desktop. I know I'm not doing like a full-on official screen share, but here's the video. So the title I have is the most important piece of computer gear that you're probably ignoring. That's not a great title, I don't think. An important piece of gear you're probably ignoring. And I think one was like something about uninterruptible power supply. This is the thumbnail that YouTube chose, which I look very happy. But let's add in our current thumbnail. So from the desktop, it was UPS thumbnail. Boom. Huge mistake. And then save it. There's no typos there, right? Okay. Huge mistake. And then see what I was saying? If I zoom in here. Oh, it made it. That was weird. There we go. See how YouTube puts the time in the bottom left? That's why you don't want to put anything too important there. So there's the thumbnail there. But then what I can do is I can go to my phone and go to YouTube. And a lot of this too, like, you know, if you know that most of your viewers for some reason are like on a computer or watching on a TV, keep that in mind. A lot of people use mobile, so that's why I always try to make sure it looks good on mobile. And if I go here, there we go. I think I can focus in on there for you. It's at the very top, along with some other videos that aren't out yet. So huge mistake. It's looking actually really nice. The arrow doesn't stand out a lot, but this looks pretty good. I'm actually like really happy with this. It's a good thumbnail. Thank you. This was really like super helpful. Robotrix is saying pink arrow. You know what? I think you're right. I think you're right. I think you're right. Because you do lose the arrow. You know what? We've had enough people in here saying that that is the case that I think it is important to listen. So let's find a color for the arrow then. Brown. Perfect. Who wouldn't want to look at that thumbnail? I mean, we could do something like, a lot of my stuff is blue, so I've always wondered about like teal and orange, but it just looks kind of yucky. Green is fun, but like a pinkish purple I think would make more sense. But it doesn't need to be like baby girl pink. I'm sorry if you're hearing like a million mouse clicks. It just is what it is, you know. I didn't want to use a trackpad for this. Okay. Well, there we go. Not brown. Matt is saying a white arrow. I'm going to save this pink because I like it, but I'm going to go back. And so a white arrow would be that. So there's a white arrow. And then the reason I have it small is just because that's how it's going to look. So there's a white arrow. There's a pink arrow. I'm open to other colors. Josh says purple. Coach Deb says pink. Match the neon. Wait, the pink neon, right? Or the... Because the other neon's blue, so that one makes sense. Let's see if we can match that, or at least get close to it. Getting fairly close. If I match it exactly, it's gonna be like too like little kid toy pink, but maybe something like that. Hey, super chat from Ron. Oh, thank you so much. Totally awesome videos and tutorials. You know what? I know I say this all the time, but my headphones that you see in my videos, Ron gave me these for Christmas last year. They just showed up, and they're the best headphones I ever had. The Mezzi 99 Neos. They're the best. I use them every day. Arlen liked the turquoise. See, I did too, but I'm not against. But it does disappear on YouTube. Pink or red, white gets lost. Pink neon. Okay, okay. I'm kind of thinking maybe I can make it a little... Nope. That was a bad idea. Yeah, that works. versus that. Light or dark? Light. Oops. I keep bringing up. I put the wrong. I'm doing like hotkeys for all these different apps at the same time by accident. Agree. The thing with red is just it's too much like. It's too YouTube. It's too YouTubey. Deb says the pink looks great, especially in the theme. Pink and blue are like my things. What I could do, check this out actually. We could find the outline. Maybe I could change this to match a little bit. How about that? It's a subtle difference, but it's a good one. Yes. Okay. So now we're going to save this again as U pink S instead of UPS. Yeah. All right. So we're going to save that. Boom. And then we're going to go back into YouTube and we're going to change. Boy, I changed my size over here. There we go. There's 100%. We're going to change it again. Because you can kind of see, especially if this is very small on your screen on the stream, the blue arrow does get lost, even though visually I like the way that it looks the most. But now if we do U pink S, yeah, I think that's the way to go. And if I update it on my phone, it might take a second to update. Oh yeah, that's way better. That was the right call. That was the right call. Thanks, Chase. There's got to be a fun. There is. It's just Helvetica, but yeah. Still waiting on the 90s Canon review. Oh yeah, we'll get there. Don't worry. I have updates on that one. Now he needs a pink mic cover. Well, I do have my purple one right here. Actually, technically that's like Heather's. As an umpire, my directions are always followed. Is that a red flag? Can you even tell it's an arrow? You can. You can on actually. Yeah, you can. I don't think it's going to be smaller than this anywhere. And you can tell it's an arrow. It's like the same arrow that's been in like... Anytime I use an arrow, it's just the same arrow. But it's a hand-drawn arrow, so... Hey. I'm liking it, actually. The video's not going to be out for another week or two, so I might like change it. And I need to come up with a good title. But this was incredibly helpful. I like it. I like it. Thank you, everybody. Here's our end results. Oops. That's not Photoshop. This is Photoshop. So it looks big, but if we make it real tiny, it works. There's not a lot for you to decipher. It's just sort of huge mistake. What's a huge mistake? This thing? What's that thing? Click on video. That's what we're going for here. Cool. Well, got a few minutes left. We got about 10 minutes left in the stream. So now we can kind of... I did my video today, which was all about streaming with a purpose, not being distracted, yada, yada. I tried to do a stream where we achieved a goal during the stream, and we did it. And the thumbnail, I can legitimately say the thumbnail is better than it would have been if everybody here wasn't here to help me with it. That was a terrible bit of grammar, but the thumbnail is better because of everyone who's here. Oh, and you know what? This is what I said we would talk about too. If you go to... Wow, my comments are all over the place. But if you go to my channel, I can try to just make this bigger. As it should be. It's the biggest thing here. There we go. If you go to my channel and you go to videos, and you can do this with a lot of people's channel, and you sort by oldest to newest, you can go through and actually see the thumbnail development. So actually my very first video has a bar behind it. I didn't realize that. That's cool. But yeah, so there's hand-drawn stuff, there's typed things, and it was really right around here. This was my first, what date was this? August 27th, 2017. This was the first time I did hand-drawn titles in a thumbnail. And the hand-drawn stuff came in. A lot of these are just screen captures. So it wasn't until 2018 or so that I started trying to like use better images. But there's a lot of text on screen. It's like looking at a comic book, which I thought looked cool, but it's also kind of overwhelming. And then as we go through, you kind of see it develop a little more. What I'm waiting for is around here, 2 years ago is where we start to see like weird glowy outlines, some lens flares. Yeah, you start to see the current elements pop in. And then, yeah, about a year ago is when things start to look very familiar. And then you can just see the development over time. Like things also became way more blue as we went through this. Sometimes there's no text. Like sometimes you just don't put text on it. But sometimes like this one here that says, how good is this budget podcast setup, is a really cool thumbnail. But there's so much for your eye to take apart there, to look at it and to look at the mic, and the mic's all outlined, versus this ultra wide monitor one where it's like, it's the monitor, it says game changer with the pink arrow. That's it. You know, I've been trying to kind of go this route more lately. The Stream Deck one from earlier this week is just Stream Deck Final Cut, Mac Mini regret. Like the word regret I thought was going to be really interesting in that one for people to see. They would wonder, like, what are you regretting? Do you regret your computer that you talk about? I don't. How long do I usually just spend? So usually it's probably about an hour, maybe a little more than an hour. And today it was about an hour and 50 minutes because live stream. I saw that, but I saw that there's a competitor to the Rodecaster, but anything that's trying to be the Rodecaster automatically is like not as good. What needs to happen is a company needs to come out with something that's different. And I think the way to do that would be to focus on something that really is geared towards streaming / podcasting, because the Rodecaster is geared towards podcasting and has been adapted for streaming. But if somebody could come out with something, I guess Go XLR kind of does this, but it's not like an onboard recorder, something that could, I think that's what the next big thing would be. Oh, Josh, have I learned any more Blender? Heck yes, I have. Maybe I could show you. I've been trying to learn Blender this is just sort of a side project. Just for funsies. And I've been doing the donut tutorial, so I think I can show everybody this. Yeah, so here's where I'm at. I'm still not done, but I've added sprinkles and things. So here's my Blender donut that I have made, and if I render it, it's going to take a while to like dissolve because I'm also running Ecamm and Photoshop and streaming and Blender. But here's kind of where I'm at with my, oops, I shouldn't have moved that, with my Blender donut. I'm getting there. I had to learn how to do particles for the sprinkles and stuff, which was pretty cool. I made this texture, which is like the donut itself gets wrapped around that. What else have I done with the donut? I also learned, I was proud of this. I made the donut and I did a render of it. This was early on, so it doesn't have all the right texture, but it's grainy. And then I learned how to denoise it to make it clear. So it goes grainy to clear, grainy to clear. So anyway, I'm learning. Blender's totally free open source software. Like, learn Blender. Thanks, Michael. I'm glad you had fun. I don't know what's happening with the music. Am I still using the A10 Mini? This is a comment right under Aaron. Yes, right now everything's running through the A10 Mini Extreme ISO. Yes, Rode should make a Tomcaster. I don't know what's going on with the music. I'll just turn it off then if it's being weird. What resources are you using to learn Blender? Yeah, YouTube. I've started with the Blender Guru Donut one. And then I just sort of have a list of other tutorials I want to do. Film Riot did a Blender tutorial yesterday, which was crazy because they've never done one and they did it yesterday. And I was like, whoa, good timing. So the donut, I've been trying to do an hour a day of Blender, and I haven't done it every single day, but I'm pretty good about it. And it's been like 10 days so far. Why am I learning Blender? Just because I want to. It seems really cool. I've been watching a channel called Densely. I think that's how you spell it. Dengle. Densle. He does Animal Crossing. Well, he doesn't. He does lots of things. One of the things he does is Animal Crossing 3D animations using Blender, and they're completely amazing. Like legit theatrical quality stuff. And he also like does commentaries on how he puts them all together, and it's like fascinating to me. So that's what pushed me to want to go into Blender. Could I live without Ecamm? Would you call that living? I might technically be alive, but I wouldn't be living. Hello in India. Hello from Indio, because that's where I live. But Blender's great, and going back to our discussion on like Adobe and stuff, Blender I didn't realize it's been around since the mid to late 90s. I didn't know it was that old. But specifically is open source, like free, always will be, can use it for everything. There's a really cool philosophy behind Blender. So not only is the software super powerful, super capable, totally free, works on Macs and PCs, but also the idea of like it exists. I don't know, it's just a really cool thing. So there we go. I don't know what this glitch is. I'm not using Ecamm Beta, but see, the reason I can't hear the glitch, I only hear people talking about it, but it's so strange because the music is running through the Rodecaster, and the Rodecaster is my only audio source. So nothing should change. But what must be happening, even though nothing is turned on, is that when I'm changing scenes, Ecamm for some reason is like quickly playing system audio. Even though I don't have system audio as a source, even though it's not turned on, it's just when I switch the scenes, it plays it. I don't have the music playing because I don't want to hurt anyone's ears. But my audio stuff, it seems like the desktop one, yeah, everything is turned off. It's like the weirdest thing. I don't know. Oh, wait, I just saw a thing. That was strange. That was really weird. Wow, wait. How bizarre. There's a lot of Ecamm users here. That's why I'm spending time on this. Nope. It's very strange. I have noticed that when I switch my scenes, for some reason, it suddenly pops up system audio and then like, it's like full and then it's off. There's no system audio even happening right now. But it's really weird. So I'm sorry. That's a weird thing. I thought everything was like super sweet on my end. It's an Ecamm glitch. So I don't know. Anyway, Coach Dev, I love his blue. Got to admit that pink contrast looks kind of sweet. Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's super weird. So it's something in Ecamm. Wow, the comments match the microphone perfectly. Well, anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was doing that because I can't hear that on my end at all. I guess the solution to that in the meantime would be if you're going to play music to play it from an outside source, and then that way there's nothing for Ecamm to glitch out on. That sucks. I'm sorry. I didn't realize for 2 hours I've been blasting out speakers. When people said glitch, I thought it meant like the music was like glitching, and I was like, I don't know, it's a playlist of royalty-free music. There's all kinds of weird dubsteppy stuff in there. It might sound glitchy. I didn't realize it was like interesting. Well, there's a lot of Ecamm people here, so you guys heard what happened. Fix it. The sound, but the thing with system audio though is I don't have like system audio is not even a source, so I can't show you because I don't want it to happen again, but also because it will disappear when I switch it. But system audio is not a source, but as soon as I make that switch, it quickly pops up as a source just to like blast everyone's speakers for half a second, and then it disappears. So right now I only see Rodecaster Pro and sound effects and movie. There's no movie, there's no sound effects. It's just Rodecaster, but if I switch it, system audio pops up for a second, blasts everything, and then disappears. What the heck? It's very, very weird. No, iPad's not connected or playing anything. It's super, super weird. Anyway, that's okay though, because we're about to wrap up. But I'm glad you pointed that out. I'm glad I understand what was happening, and I apologize that was happening for the whole stream. So all the headphone users, sorry. This is what I am doing. This is what I'm doing, Megan. But the problem is, Ecamm is overriding the Rodecaster and adding in a different source. It's strange. And the last most important question is Fender, Strat, or Tele. I have two Strats. No, I have two Strats, two Teles. So yes, Ken and Glenn, get on it, guys. You're not busy. You don't have a conference happening right now. It's not the stream music. It's the background music that's running through the Rodecaster, but it's duplicating it as a system audio source for just a split second and then taking it away just when I switch scenes. Maybe, let me see. I'm going to see if I can show you. I might have a way of being able to show you this. Okay, wait. Okay, okay. It's not doing it because I have the music turned off because I don't want to hurt everyone, but check this out. I'm going to do the fanciest screen capture you ever saw in your life. How do I do this now? This is going to be tough. Okay, I'm going to change my camera to my phone through NDI, through the magic of NDI. And we'll do this wide, so that way, actually we don't even need it wide. Square is good. So I'm going to hold this up here so you can see what I see when the scene switches now. So here is the Rodecaster. This desktop scene does have system audio, but as you can see, it's muted. But watch what happens when I go back to my main scene. Did you see that? It unmutes for a second and then disappears. So that's what happened is system audio, which as far as I know, I can't get rid of when I'm sharing my screen. I can't get rid of this, so it's muted. But when I go over here, it unmutes and then turns off. I guess I'd have to just turn the volume all the way down on it. Maybe I just keep the volume at 0 then instead of, so it's the mute on system audio. It like unmutes itself. It's weird. So I guess the key, oh God, I'm using the wrong camera now. Hello. There we go. So I guess the key there is don't mute system audio, turn it down to 0. That's weird. Anyway. Yeah. Super strange. Didn't notice that. Cruise ships, we talked about this earlier. I answered this, you must have missed it, but I said it depends on the hotel. If it's a big brand name and you want to include the logo or the name, I think that's good. If it's small or something people might not know about, then you probably don't need it. It's totally up to you. We'll be doing another show. Maybe. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Maybe we could do one that doesn't have audio glitches. But you can go back and watch the replay too. I'm not going to take the replay down, so it's there. And this says, no, your camera goes away. I'm also switching. If you couldn't see it. I don't know. I'm switching so many different sources. But anyway. We've been going for 2 hours. It's time to wrap it up because my wife Heather and I are going to stream on her channel in about 55 minutes. So you can go to youtube.com/HeatherJustCreate to watch a stream that has nothing to do with what we talked about here today, but it's going to be fun. And there we go. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for all the help with thumbnails because I firmly believe I came out with a better video while I streamed the video, and I came out with a better thumbnail from having everyone's help with the thumbnail. So it's awesome. Marcus, you're here? What? This is amazing. Marcus is a former student from like 4 years ago. So you're going to be like a senior in college now. I am not. I'm full-time YouTube, baby. Anyway. So, profile picture ideas. Let's end here. Similar to a thumbnail, you want something that's going to stand out. Faces in profiles work really well. As you can see in our chat here, lots of people either have their logos or their faces. So that way you're very identifiable, very recognizable. I'm a big fan of faces in profile pictures. And if you go through our chat, you'll see lots of people has faces. So I recommend that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your help. I appreciate it. Now, you should hear music. When I push this button, it should take you to an outro screen where there is music playing, and it should not be blaringly loud. So thank you for being here. I'll see some of you over on Heather Just Create, youtube.com/Heather Just Create in 54 minutes. And otherwise, thanks for your help. I really appreciate it. This was super fun. Go check out Raphael in the meantime. Raphael Ludwig. Go check out his stream. He's live now. I should go over there too. Bye, everybody.